If you want an apprentice, we had a mistake with an apprentice back in 2008, someone who didn't know what they were doing, who wasn't prepared to run something in government. The contrast is I offer a proven track record of taking on the special interests, many of whom are from Washington, and then I've got a real plan, real solutions to move this country forward. I think that's what people want.
Governor Scott Walker taking direct aim at Donald Trump in the spin room following last night's GOP debate. Now, going into that discussion, a pair of candidates, Governor Walker and Senator Rand Paul, saw their poll numbers falling dramatically. Scott Walker, around 2%, Rand Paul, less than 1%. According to a recent public policy poll. So will the debate last night give those candidates the boost they need to stay and to prosper in this Republican race? For more, let's welcome in Robert O'Brien, foreign policy advisor to Scott Walker. He served as an advisor to Mitt Romney in the recent past. Also joining us, the foreign policy advisor to Rand Paul, Kiron Skinner. Kiron, a Reagan staffer back in the day. She's the W. Glenn Campbell Research Fellow at Hoover Institution. To you both, thanks for your time here on Newsmax Prime. Robert, Scott Walker's poll numbers, especially in Iowa, have to be of some concern. I noticed the governor tried to assert himself early in the debate. Did he do enough to improve his standing in the polls?
Well, I think the governor had a great debate. And one of the things, Congressman, you know this, having run yourself, the only poll that matters is going to be at on caucus day or the New Hampshire primary a week after. The voters right now are having their summer flings, and they're having fun with the process, just like a lot of us are watching the race. But as they get, the Iowa voters take picking a president very seriously, as did the New Hampshire and South Carolina voters. As they get close to making that decision, they're going to see Scott Walker as someone who established himself with his record in Wisconsin, that showed that he's presidential in these debates, that he was unintimidated by Donald Trump or Jake Tapper, and that he's the guy, he's the Washington outsider that can be president of the United States. So, you know, look, no one likes to see the polls go down. I know it's always nice to be on the show with Dr. Skinner, and I'm sure she feels the same way about her candidate, but I think when the voters get serious in December, January, February, Scott Walker's going to be right in the mix of things.
And let me turn to Kiron with really a two-part question, Kiron. Number one, from the Reagan staff in the Reagan years to Rand Paul's campaign staff here in 2015, how did you make that journey? And for you, what are the philosophical consistencies there?
Well, first, just by way of a correction, I wasn't a Reagan staffer, but JD, as you know very well, I did the books, co-authored books on Reagan's writings.
Right. Thanks for the gentle correction. Thank you very much.
So
most diplomatically done. Thank you.
I would love to take credit for many of the foreign policy successes in the Reagan years, but I studied them in the archives. I didn't actually make the decisions. But I get your point, and when we're thinking about Senator Rand Paul, many saw him early on as someone who would kind of take the baton from the Reagan legacy. And it's one of the reasons that I joined with him, and I still think that he has a strong future in this presidential race and in the future of our nation, because he's doing something incredibly difficult in the context of running for president. He's trying to realign the American electorate to bring African Americans and Hispanics into the Republican Party, to return the Republican Party to the party of Lincoln, something that Reagan talked about himself in January 1977. After Carter had won, a few days before he was inaugurated, Reagan said, we've got to make this party a permanent party for African Americans and others. And Rand Paul, as you noticed last night, was really the only candidate who talked about one of the most difficult issues in urban communities, and that's criminalizing low levels of marijuana and drug possession for African Americans and Hispanics.
So you would take that as a point of departure in terms of criminal justice reform. Robert O'Brien, as a foreign policy staffer for Governor Scott Walker, what do you believe was the best moment for your candidate last night? About 30 seconds.
Two great moments. Number one, we were the first candidate, as you may recall, to come out for tearing up and terminating the Iran deal on day one. It was great to see Senator Ted Cruz come out and adopt that position following Governor Walker and others have now jumped on that. Kasich and Governor Bush have both demurred and said that they would kind of play it out and go with the
obviously it is to be continued. Robert, Kiron, thank you so much for your time tonight. Throughout this program, we've been talking about the debate and which candidates did well and maybe not so well last night. We've even asked you to weigh in on our Newsmax poll, and here are our up-to-date poll results. Donald Trump remains in the lead at 48%. Carly Fiorina second at 21%. Marco Rubio third at 9%. Dr. Ben Carson next, a little under 9%. And Ted Cruz at 5.5%. You can vote by going to NewsmaxPolls.com.